Hey, what's happening? It's me, Crazyfrankie, and I'd like to welcome you to my Week 10 4 key game picks. Before we talk about Week 10, let's talk about Week 9. Not going to spend too much time about Week number 9, but, well, let's see now. We're down to just one undefeated NFL team. Surprisingly, last week, that the Ravens really did a number on the New England Patriots. And really give a ton of credit where credit is due with Lamar Jackson and the offense, as they did a great job of holding New England Patriots to at most 20 points, which really was surprisingly the way that the Patriots have praised so much of their defense. But in all honesty, I don't think that the Patriots were as prepared for this game as I originally thought. I mean, Lamar Jackson really got that defense going so early in the first quarter, it took for a while for the Patriots to catch up. But they really just give the Ravens a ton of credit that they did a great job on that Patriot defense. And now I know a lot of people are still having a lot of questions whether or not that the Patriots are what they seem to be. Look, it's hard for me to count the Patriots out, and I'm pretty sure a lot of us know this already here, is that no matter how many times any NFL team could beat the Patriots during the regular season, the Patriots are like cockroaches. No matter how many times you step on a cockroach, they're just going to keep on coming. And they don't stop. So you can't really count out this New England Patriot team right now until any team can prevent them from winning the Super Bowl. Surprisingly, with the 49ers staying undefeated, they had a tough game against the Cardinals. So give Maria a ton of credit in that Cardinals offense here, that they really kept the 49ers really on their toes last week. But in the end, the 49ers ended up winning their game against the Cardinals, and the 49ers are going to be one team I'm going to talk about this week in my 4 key game picks. It does bring a ton of questions right now. Did the Cardinals last week found some vulnerabilities in the 49ers? Tough to say, but I kind of think maybe they did in terms of their offense and how to slow down Garoppolo. But credit where credit is due with the Cardinals. They did a good job of staying in the game last week against the 49ers, but in the end the 49ers pulled away. Surprising upset out of week number 9 was really the Packers losing to the Chargers. Chargers beating them 26-11. I'm a Chargers fan, and that game really did surprise me. And last week I did pick the Packers to beat the Chargers. If you look at the description below every time I do a video here, all of my NFL picks for the week are right there. I mean, all of the pundits and everybody who's a fan of the NFL, I mean, we all had the Packers beating the Chargers, but give the Chargers a ton of credit here that they really kept the ball away from Aaron Rodgers. And the Chargers were kind of getting healthy at that point, so it did kind of really put a little bit of some struggle for Aaron Rodgers in that offense to really do anything. But the Chargers and their offense really finally got their act together, which it took until week number 8 just to get things going again. And I really don't know if this will really provide any sort of momentum going forward for the Chargers. Not really sure about that. Anyways, I would get into more details for week number 9, but I really want to get this video done and as soon as possible, and I want to get into my picks for week number 10. Now, week number 10, there's only 13 games on the schedule. 6 teams are on a bye week. And looking at the schedule right now, here are your picks for week number 10. All right, going back to talking about the Chargers, they're going to be part of the first game I'm going to talk about here. So let's start with key game number 1. It is the Chargers versus the Raiders. Now, this is going to be the final game in Oakland between these two teams, as Oakland will be moving to Las Vegas next season, and the final Thursday night game ever in Oakland. Now, the Chargers are a 1-point favorite in this game. It wouldn't surprise me if this game goes to pick'em or lines are even. Now, Rivers last week, 21 of 28, 294 yards, no touchdowns, but 1 interception here. Wasn't his best game last week against the Packers, but it was enough because most of the running game did the work, and that may be the key again for this Chargers team to beat the Raiders. Now, the Raiders last week really had quite a fight between them and the Lions last week. Carr went 20 of 31, 289 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, and that game last week against the Lions took until their offense really had to hold it together because the Lions were pretty resilient last week, and they really made the Raiders work for this win they had last week. Tough game here Thursday night, and the only reason why I consider this a key game, it's more likely, these two teams are fighting for a wild card spot. They're still in it. The way the AFC right now is gone, these two teams are still in it in terms of fighting for a playoff spot. The division sort of starting to slip away between both of these two teams, and it might be hard for both of these teams to catch up here. So this game is more or less just to stay alive in a hunt for a wild card spot. Boy, in terms of both offenses, they're about even. Defense-wise, the Chargers are starting to show that their defense is just a tad better than the Raiders. But it's still going to be a tough game between these two teams. This game, I believe, is going to go back and forth. It's going to be a good one on Thursday night. I can see it. But who do I have winning this game? I'm going to go with the Chargers here. I think their offense finally and their running game is finally getting intact. Look, I'm not really sure about this pick here because both these two teams are evenly matched in terms of offense. Chargers may have a slightly better defense, and their defense is getting healthy at the right time. But this is going to be, but on a short week here, it's going to be a tough game for both these two teams. Can that running game for the Chargers really get it going here again against the Raiders? Raiders, they have to do is basically their passing game is starting to click again. Running game, they need to develop a little bit more of their running game and hopefully pound that Chargers defense and maybe take a lesson for what the Chargers did to the Packers. But I'm going to pick the Chargers here. I think they'll probably win more or less by a field goal. This is not a sure pick here. Really, this game really is a toss-up here, but I'm picking the Chargers in this one here. Chargers over the Raiders. Key game number 2, it is the Rams versus the Steelers. Rams are a 3.5-point favorite in this one. That number should be much lower. And let me tell you why. The Rams are coming off a bye week, and they weren't, despite the fact that they beat a Bengals team that's winless, and they could be on the verge of becoming 0-16 if they don't get a win fast. They only beat them 24-10. It really wasn't all that impressive, especially in that game. They had this game in London. Now, Jared Goff went 17-31, 372 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. Now, Rudolph in a big win last week, and the Steelers a big win last week against the Colts, 26-35, 191 yards, 1 touchdown, and 1 interception. It's hard to say who comes out the victor in this game. For the Rams, this is do or die now because the way all the NFC teams in that conference here, the Rams are virtually fighting for a playoff berth. The division is starting to become out of reach for them in the NFC West. And this is more or less for the Rams here. This is do or die in order to keep pace in a possible wild card berth here. Seattle's not letting up. And you got other teams that are really not that far behind in terms of a playoff spot. The Rams are basically fighting for their playoff lives here in this game here in order to keep pace in that hunt for the wild card. The Steelers, surprisingly right now, they're pretty much back to 500 here. And they're on a hot streak right now. They won about, I think, 3 of their last games. They're in the previous 3 weeks. But this comes to a test between them and that Rams offense. And the Rams offense, another question comes to mind. How are they? Are they going to really make a statement here in this game? Tough pick here, in all honesty here. This game really is a toss-up, but I'm still going to go with the Rams in this game. I think the Rams will beat the Steelers here, but it'll be a much harder game for the Rams. I think this game will be difficult for them. They'll probably win more or less the same, probably by a field goal here. But if that Rams defense can really do a number on Rudolph and that Pittsburgh offense here, I like the Rams in this game, but this will be a much harder game for them to win here because the way the Steelers are playing right now, they're still in it. Even with no Ben Roethlisberger, they're still in this for a wild card spot. But I'll pick the Rams here. The Rams, I think, will win by a field goal here. Rams over the Steelers. Key game number 3, the Minnesota Vikings versus the Dallas Cowboys. Cowboys are a 3-point favorite in this one, and I would say that's about right here. The Vikings coming off a tough loss last week against the Kansas City Chiefs. Cousins going 19-38, 220 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. And for the Cowboys, on a short week against the Giants last week, Prescott went 22-35, 257 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 1 interception. Really, this is a must-win for both these two teams. Well, the Cowboys kind of really need this game just a bit more than the Vikings do. The Vikings are still in it. They're only one game back of the Packers. The Chargers gave the Vikings a gift last week, beating them in Carson. And Minnesota's is still one game back. A lot of questions come to mind between Minnesota's offense here. Now, give the Vikings offense a ton of credit. They really did a great job, despite the fact that Kansas City's defense really had to work hard to stop them. Now, for the Cowboys here, it was sort of an easy win last week. I mean, the Cowboys really, the Cowboys had a hard first half against the Giants, but in the second half, they pulled away. This is going to be a really, really tough game for the Cowboys because that Vikings team is no joke. They're really right now in quite a fight right now, but they have a fight between them and the Packers right now in terms of who might win that division. The division's still up for grabs for the Vikings, and they're still right now ahead in the pack in terms of wild card positioning here. Now it comes to mind here, this Vikings defense is going to get put to a test. Cowboys, key for this game here, they do what they did against the Giants here. They got to unleash Ezekiel Elliott in order to pound that Minnesota defense. And keep in mind another fact here. This whole season so far up until this point here, the Vikings have had a tough time on the road. They're not a good road team at all. And this really will come at a huge price here if they don't really stay together in order to beat the Cowboys here. This is a tough test for the Vikings here. It really is a must-win for both these two teams, but the Cowboys I think need it more because the Eagles are still in it in that NFC East. So who's going to win this game? I'm going to go with the Dallas Cowboys here just for the fact that the Vikings are having trouble on the road. And if Ezekiel Elliott can unleash the running game here, it'll make it easier for Dak Prescott to throw passes here. And that's why I'm going to pick the Dallas Cowboys in this game. I think they'll really do a number on that Vikings defense here if the running game gets going here on this one here. Cowboys over the Vikings. And finally, key game number 4, a really big one going back to the NFC West. It's the Monday night game. It's the Seattle Seahawks versus the San Francisco 49ers. The 49ers are a 6-point favorite in this one here. I really think that number should be a little bit lower, maybe 5.5, maybe 5 points. Seattle's offense is going to be put to the test, and Russell Wilson and their offense is really going to be put to the test for the San Francisco defense here. Wilson, he had a hard time last week against the Buccaneers. Give the Buccaneers some credit here. They really kept up with the Seahawks here. Excuse me. I mean, that game had to go into overtime, and then in a big touchdown pass for Wilson in order to beat the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Now, Wilson 29-43, 378 yards, 5 touchdowns, and no interceptions here. And Garoppolo for the 49ers last week against the Cardinals, 28-37, 317 yards, 4 touchdowns, and no interceptions here. You would say this is it should be kind of an easy pick here because of that San Francisco defense here, but I don't know. The way that Kyle Murray did and that Cardinals did to that San Francisco defense right here really did a great job of kind of exposing maybe some sort of their weaknesses here in terms of now remember, Russell Wilson's pretty mobile, and so was Murray and the Cardinals here, and really their mobility really helped that offense out against that. Maybe that could be one of the 49ers' flaws if they can't stop any mobility from any quarterback. Tough to say. I would have to. I mean, if you're all logic would say that the 49ers should easily win this game. I don't think so. This is going to be an even tougher game for them. Now the 49ers are getting into the stretch now where the games are going to get much tougher. And also at the same time too that Seattle's offense will be put to the test against a pretty good San Francisco defense here. So this game really, you could sort of say this game actually is a toss-up here. Even though despite the odds makers having the 49ers as a 6-point favorite here. But who wins this game here? I still think the 49ers will pull out the victory here. The game is in San Francisco here, and their defense, I think, will do a great job in putting I think they'll keep the Seattle offense at bay, but it's going to be a much tougher game than they will get into. So, yeah, I'm going to pick the 49ers here, but it's going to be a very close game here. It should be a good one on Monday night. 49ers over the Seahawks. All right, everybody, that wraps up my picks for week number 10. For all of my week 10 picks, check the description below, and I'll talk to you guys next week when I talk about my picks for week number 11. Take care and enjoy your football weekend.